Yeah.
I'm going to come with my interpretation of what I think this should look like. To me, taking that stance and making sure that everything that I do achieve as an entrepreneur, a woman of color in the spaces that are male dominated, that I go back and I get those younger women and the younger girls that are coming up and show them and model to them what it looks like to be unapologetically you, because you're already going to be successful. Anything you put your hands to, it's going to be blessed, because that's what's already been written. So it's understanding that knowledge and walking in that and that power. Has it been easy doing that? No. There are times where I have been met with, individuals that were taken back by my approach, to business and my knowledge and my confidence. And honestly, Duran, even being young or looking young has been a downfall in some situations. And so I've had to navigate those different experiences, but continue to show up the same way.
Greetings, everyone. Rising, depending on where you're at. Welcome to the show today. I'm so excited, y'all. Like this guest today that we have is going to be one that's going to not just educate us, but also enlighten us in the automotive industry and beyond. And we're going to talk into some video and some innovations. And so, but I'm excited. So listen in, get your notes. I'm already ready to talk to this unique individual. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce her. Her name is Lisa Bailey. All right. Coming from us, I believe, on the West Side. I'll let her talk and introduce herself here in just a little bit, but just a little background on Lisa that I have, because I told her I'm going to put some respect on Lisa Bailey in her bio. But Lisa is the founder and CEO of Features First Auto, dedicated to reducing car collisions by bridging the ADAS knowledge gap and empowering drivers for safer roads. As a thought leader, I agree with that, speaker and educator, she collaborates with public and private stakeholders to enhance consumer understanding of vehicle technologies. Her commitment to creating educational solutions spans generations, fostering widespread adoption of advanced safety features. Lisa's mission is to make vehicle technology education more consumer-friendly, non-technical, and relevant to today's drivers. Like I'm geeked just off the bio alone when she sent that over to me, but all the fluff away from it, really and truly, I'm so thankful. The way that Lisa and I connected, because this show wasn't supposed to happen for Driven by Intelligence. Really, we just connected through a mutual friend that connected us. It was Mabel. What's up, Mabel? And thank you so much. But yeah, shout out to Mabel. If you all don't know who Mabel is, follow her, Mabel. But follow her on any social channel. But she's a light in our industry, just like Lisa is. And so when we connected not too long ago, when we spoke, I was like, oh my gosh, we got to have a conversation to share with the world, because Lisa is tapping into something that I feel many of us forget about, and it's that consumer education piece. And me as a trainer and a consultant, I focus so much on training, but never thought about it from a consumer standpoint. So I'm not going to take away the thunder of anything. So without further ado, Lisa, welcome. Yay! And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much and let's continuing our original talk. You're absolutely right. When we first met, there was an energy and a synergy there. And I think it's because we both believe in, training and educating people and informing people so that they can make more powerful decisions, but that they actually see a result, right, from the decision. And so thank you so much for that bio. And I love to break it down into simple terms as to what I am doing and what we're doing at Features First Auto. And it's just making sure that the everyday person keeps up with really where we are headed when we think about technology. And that's as a whole, but we're specifically looking at it in the vehicle. Because I'm a mother of a new teenage driver, this is also very important to me. The anxiety itself that comes with having a teenage driver is off the Richter scale. But, to know some of the data behind distracted driving and that type of thing, and know that, these technologies are tied to improving driver safety, it brings a different element to the why of what we're doing. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to get into this talk with you today.
Yeah. No. Well, now talk to us about like what really inspired you to even start this, because you kind of gave a little bit of a hint
Mm-hmm,
there when you were
mm-hmm.
talking about your little ones and whatnot, but
Yes.
take us a little bit deeper into that aha moment, like when you were like, yo, there's an opportunity here to help people within this industry.
Yeah, 100%. It really came from my own personal experience, and it was with
Mhm.
my teenager. So, at the time of me teaching him how to drive, which I was very excited about, that's like a rite of
Mhm.
passage. Everybody, well, when I grew up, now these kids, they don't want to drive, but that's a whole different conversation. But when I was
Right.
teaching my son how to drive, I was honestly going down memory lane of what my dad taught me when I was driving. So it was a
Mm.
personal experience that I had with my dad, like a rite of passage. Like, man, I'm getting older, and
Oh,
so
that's
I had
good.
that experience with my son. But there's also the training part of me that wants to be effective, right? That's that. I have a long-standing history background in risk management and process improvement in the corporate space, and dealing with technology. So anytime I'm doing something, those skills always creep in, so that I'm always thinking, okay, how
Mhm.
do I do this more, most efficiently or most effective in a way my son understands and he cares, because you can
Yeah.
teach somebody something, but if they don't care about it, if they don't have
That's
a
nothing.
connection to it, it won't stick, right? So we were met with a level of technology in that training that I was not prepared to teach him. So there were different systems and features in my new car at the time that I said, oh my goodness, not only do I need to teach him how to place his hands and to look at the stop sign, but if you're on the freeway,
Yeah.
there's technology that is going to shift your wheel. And if you are not aware of that experience, it will alarm you, which then
Mhm.
counteracts what really should be happening, which is you being
Yeah.
aware that there's like this superhero with you in the car that's looking and paying attention when you're not paying attention. And so, really, it was that experience. And then my pursuit of trying to find just some resources for my son and for myself, actually, because I am a early adopter, I like to believe, and so and I love cars, and so I can
Yeah.
see like where we're headed with the technology and how they're just redoing the experience that we know as driving today. And there is not a lot of talk or educational resources that are for teenagers, that are for mature
Mhm.
drivers, and just everyday people around these technologies. So really, it was a conversation that I had with an experience. And then I said, okay, what other moms are having this problem and where are they going? So I just started
Mhm.
hitting up my network, and I'm like, are you teaching your son how to drive? Okay, well, what about, because some of my girls got Porsches, they got, and they barely know how to drive a car. So I'm just
Yeah.
trying to figure out, how are you navigating all of this technology and also teaching your son how to drive? So really, my background in that process improvement and risk management, but also business development, saw a opportunity. I saw where there was a lack when it comes to customer training. Even when I purchased
Mhm.
my new vehicle, I actually had the pleasure of having a product specialist take the time to make sure I understood everything that was in that car. But to be honest,
Mhm.
7 days later, I couldn't even remember anything he said. And I'm not going to
Always.
pull out, yeah, and I'm not going to pull out a
Always.
1,500-page manual that's written in the language for maybe an engineer.
Yep.
So it was that experience, and then having that background and seeing an opportunity, and honestly, it became a mission for me to make sure that whatever I do in this business, my son can use it, and then my younger
Yeah.
son, who's getting ready to be a teenager, can use it, and any other teenager who plans to get into a vehicle that has technology in it. Come on, guys, we have to make sure that we're educating them enough to know how to use the technology, how to interact with it, and make
Yeah.
sure that they get from point A to point B safely. So that's really like the why behind what we do.
Oh my gosh. So when you because I didn't ask this when you and I were talking the first
Mhm.
time, like pre-show, but when you talk to dealers
Mhm.
about this solution, what do they say? Like, does the aha moment go off for them, or do they say, "Oh, well, our customers can go to YouTube," or what do they say when you tell them about this, like this post-sale experience?
We have received many different responses, and
Hmm.
what I have noticed is it depends on how that dealer values their customer experience, really.
Yeah.
And so we've talked to dealers and they said, is it ready? Can I have it right now? Because I have mature drivers that are 65 and older that
Hmm.
need that resource that they can go back to on demand, and not have to call back the dealer and ask these questions, and create that
Oh,
flow,
that's so
having
good.
something available, right? But then you
Yep.
also have um, the dealers that say this type of customer training is already available to them via the manual or via the
Hmm.
manufacturer's efforts. So you can, if it's a Honda, if it's a Toyota, if it's a Ford, you can go on their website and kind of dig through all of these online resources to hopefully find some type of resource that is even for your vehicle. Because once you look at the type of educational efforts that are happening, it's more on a larger scale. So this might be for your car and it might not be for your car. Well, how is that going to be helpful to the person to now have to dig further? So there are dealers that are seeing the value in improving that customer experience around the technology. But what we really have heard is that it's a pain point. It's
Yeah.
affecting customer satisfaction index scores because customers are blaming the frustration of the technology on the dealer. And so
Hmm.
that's what we're saying to the dealer is it's a misplaced frustration because of the learning curve. And
Yeah.
because you as the dealer really have not set the tone as to how you answer that need, then it's automatically this is a bad experience and I don't have what I need.
So look, this kind of made me just think of another question that popped up is, okay, so when that customer makes that purchase from the dealership
Hmm.
and they're using
Hmm.
this tool, right? This experience, I don't even want to call it a tool, but they're using this experience after the sale. Do you recommend that the salespeople kind of like, do they do this with them and say, hey, or do they just kind of teach them the app or the software? But how does that part, like, what do you recommend on how
Hmm.
to introduce that? And then
Yeah.
when do you do it? Like, because you know how my marketing brain is going wild on this is that
Yeah.
I see the value of it way before the customer buys the car
Yeah.
as a value add. But is
Hmm.
there times that you say best practice, this is when you should bring up this feature, and then
Hmm.
after the purchase, how do teams introduce it?
Yeah, and my best, the way that we approach it when we talk to a dealer is that it needs to become part of your culture. And it already is part of your culture because you have a product specialist that is
Mhm.
dedicated to making sure that the customer understands the technology. So you are already creating that experience. The question is, how do we extend that experience to the customer and make it available to them when they need it? And so we like to take a frictionless approach. We're not selling anything to the customer. What we want the customer to know is we have an educational resource for you.
Mhm.
So as we're getting feedback maybe on how that customer service experience was when you purchased your vehicle, let's also introduce a value add for you. This is an educational resource for you. Click the code, scan the QR code because we have many ways to deliver it. And it
Okay.
comes directly to that customer for them to say when they want to learn, at what time they want to learn. And they just receive, it's almost like what I picture in my head with my training background is an onboarding experience. So,
That's
you know
it.
how you get a new Apple iPhone, right? Before you even can utilize it, they take you through a non-negotiable onboarding. You cannot get any further into the process of exploring what you bought until they know you
Mm.
know where everything is, especially the things that will have you meaningfully use the phone. So it's almost like that. Now we know you're at home, you have your car. Here is another extension for you to take a few days, maybe over the next 7 days, you're going to receive a text message. You can consume this content in literally 5 minutes because we take a micro learning approach. No one has time to learn a 2-minute to 5-minute video on
Mm-hmm.
technology. And that's what you will find on YouTube. On YouTube, there's fun videos as well. There's the enthusiasts, but it's also it comes with their culture and what really they want to focus on. We are focused on making sure you're educated. You need to know what's happening in the car. You need to know what technologies are there. And then you need to know how to take care of them, because there is a safety aspect to it. So the dealer essentially is making this message to that customer that we care about you. We want to make sure that you know how to use it. And it's a frictionless approach because it's part of our culture, because safety is part of our culture.
And so how does that correlate to how the customers feel about that dealership? Like, has there been any feedback there in terms of, wow, they truly value me, or, does this confuse customers? But what feedback are you hearing from sales teams and from dealerships that have this, like, real feedback from customers?
I will tell you the customer feedback that we have heard, because we do surveys within our
Okay.
listings. And
All
so
right.
we get feedback. We collect data on how long it took them to complete that. Which course did they go to next? Which technology are they really interested in? But we get that feedback. And what we have heard is, this would have been really nice when I first got my car.
You ain't lying.
If I could have had this when I first got my car, and and here's the thing, it was less about the dealer and
Mm-hmm.
more about the experience. So they didn't say that, I wish I had this at the dealer sooner. It wasn't dealer focused. It was the fact that you met a need.
Mm-hmm.
And that automatically increases your loyalty to a experience, which happens to be that dealer. That dealer is going to be seen in a different light, knowing that they can meet their customers at that point of need. And when we think about technology and where we're headed, period, even with video, with what you're doing with video, you are meeting that customer where they're at in a way they understand, and it's making a connection with them. That is priceless, baby. That's loyalty right there.
You ain't lying. And then, but you said something though, micro learning. So
Yes.
break that down for me, because you said, hey, one of the things, how the videos come across to your customers, are the customers, the end users, they enjoy this experience because it's micro learning.
Yes.
Expand on that a little bit.
So, and micro learning is just an approach to how you deliver content. And so when you think about like traditional training, it's usually voice over video, PowerPoint type presentation. But if you consider the time that we're in now, the fact that the average attention span is less than 5 seconds, and people are used to now having TikTok and sound bites and moving on very quickly from one topic to the next. How do you meet your customer where they're already being introduced to that level of consuming content? And so for me, I'm a millennial and I'm raising teenagers. And my teenager takes our training because I want to know how he thinks. Is it too long? Are you already lost? Is it not engaging? And so the micro learning approach is taking what you would say the manual is, and you're taking out the most top information. What is the technology? Why is it there? How does it work? How do you maintain it, right? And that content is delivered not all at once, but over a period of time. And that type of approach supports behavior change, because that's what we want. We don't want to just check the box off and say, yep, we gave the customer what they needed. Did the customer absorb it? Did the customer utilize what you gave them? How will you know? You don't know. And so if you can deliver your content in a way that supports this era of bite-sized learning, bite-sized training, but then you're also having an engaging effect to it as well, and you're meeting them where they're at. That approach to us has worked very well. Customers love that approach. They get to choose when they learn. So I'm available on Monday at 7:30 p.m. Send me the text then, because I'm most engaged and I'm most available at that time. So solutions now, even in the dealer space, when they think about the customer experience, they will have to look at the experiences that customers are having outside of the dealer. And how
Oh
do you,
man.
as a dealer, match that effort? And so we're doing that by delivering it a certain way, and it's micro learning. And so it supports behavior change. It's proven well beyond what we've done. And so it works. And that's the way that we approach the training.
The reason why I'm so thankful that you broke that out, because I almost feel like Cage community, all the people that are part of this, that are watching this, forgive me for not even thinking at that level, because I do encourage, at least I encourage them to send videos after, for sure, especially if you have a pre-recorded video on some unique features that are in there that you could send, that'd be great. But one thing I never thought about was that micro learning piece, because that to me is like an art. It's a science to do that. And I know of me as a car salesperson, if I got back out there on the lot and sold cars today, and somebody buys a used whatever, I'm not even going to say the make model, but it's just some used make model. And afterwards, let's say I want to send them, and this could be a new car too. So it could be a new car for people that really understand that new car. And afterwards, they take delivery because it's an out-of-state delivery. Because a lot of my clients, I would say 10 to 20% of people are selling, or 10 to 20% of their purchases typically happen outside of 2 to 3 hours. Yeah. Now, those people might drive and make that long distance to come pick it up, or they might have it delivered. But either way, on a new car side, when that happens, it's like the salesperson, I've educated them to do a nice video walk around to be able to send. But one thing that I never thought about was you really need to break that down into different pieces. Like you can't just make 1, 10, 20 minute. I mean, you could, but the experience of what that would look like to just do a 20-minute. All right, oh yeah, I forgot about this. So here, when you hit this button, make sure you hit this one, not that one, and the customer's like, wait, make sure you take a screenshot at 11 minutes and 13, how we do on YouTube, it's like, take a screenshot right here so we can come back to this spot. And so I think of the time that's involved with this, because not just customers' time, but on the employees' time to kind of create this experience, this post-sale intelligence. I would say it would take up a lot of time to deliver it at a level of what you're talking about, because I know that as a content creator as well, to edit that, and you can use all the AI tools you want, but it would take a good amount of time to do this strategically, and then on their end to make sure that it feels right. Because if it doesn't feel right, we can send customers. I mentioned this to you when we had talked before. There is where you could send a link of another influencer who broke down how to use that car. But even still with that, there's a problem. You might have to get solicited. I don't know anybody else how they feel about that, but I don't like to be on YouTube with the whole every 3 minutes, the video stops to tell you about some product or they're trying to highlight something. So I think overall, front to end, that experience of what you can provide by using a tool and a software like this on both sides is really good. But I didn't think about that till you were talking. It's like, oh my gosh, like to do it right, it would take a long time to make informative videos after a post sale on a car that you might not even know much about. I'm talking about the cars that we're experts on, but imagine if it's something that you don't know and it's some $80,000 SUV that somebody purchased 3 states away. To me, telling this beforehand of what you're doing for them post sale and then delivering on that afterwards is I think that puts the dealership in a whole different category compared to everyone else. right?
Absolutely. And it forces you to think about what you want to say,
Yeah.
and pick out the most important things. And that's, it's a balance. You being a content creator, is how much is too much. How much
Mm,
content is too much content. And so, you'll never really know that answer. But I will tell you this: you can walk around just on the street and ask people how long do they want to take to learn something. They're like, get it to me and get it to me quick. And so the YouTube videos are great. But you never know if that person vibes with with that person who's delivering that video. When you just get down to the nitty gritty of what it is you're trying to say, this is what we do. We take out
yeah.
all of that fluff, because the manufacturers, the way that they advertise these technologies to customers is through commercials.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to make an emotional experience with that customer through, you have the latest, BZ I-240, and that customer's like, yeah, and that worked.
Yeah.
That worked, right? And you get them in there and they buy it, right? And they get the car. That's great. Do they know how to use it?
Mm-mm.
Does anybody care about that? Because that is part of the experience, the customer experience. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that say, I'll never go back to that dealer because I still don't know what's happening in this car.
Wow. No, I mean I think anybody listening to this, if they've been on the other side of the car business where they did actually purchase, and maybe even if you still were in the car business, but you bought at your own store or somewhere
Mm-hmm,
else, we've all felt this. We've
mm-hmm.
all felt it where, especially the larger the number goes up, the it's kind of like the worse that we may feel about the fact that, wait a second, I just spent $50,000 on this car, or 40,000. Even 20 grand is a lot of money to spend to get something and not know it. And you're right. Like, I'll never forget the way that you compared it, because to me, it's always mind blowing in our industry that something that's way less, like 90% less, does a much better job at giving that experience after. Like what you said with Apple,
Yep.
these phones are $1,000 to $2,000, right? Like retail or whatever. And to think that they walk you through those steps, and I'm sure Samsung does it. I'm sure,
Yes.
anything that you purchase, it's like it's that open box experience kind of feeling, like when you
Exactly.
get something and you're opening up that box, and then you're getting everything, and then you get the little slip that shows, hey, scan this QR code, right? Scan this code to walk you through how to get the best use of this product. Because I
Yep.
can't remember the last time I've seen a manual come with anything that I bought online. Almost everything has come with a QR code
Yes.
that I scan, and I'll either put it on the TV. It might be a YouTube, it might be something, but it's some kind of thing that walks me through step
Yes.
by step how to do what I want. And those experiences always made me feel that much better and more confident about what I've done. And it's something that you could tell a friend about it. You could send it to somebody. I mean, that to me, anything else would be very challenging to do, or it would create a much more time, or you're going to spend time like, all right, everybody, let's do a bunch of delivery videos. You're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. But then how I guess the word that I would say is, how factual is everything too, if it's on a
Correct.
car that you don't know.
Correct.
So you literally have to use transcription, and getting details off of chat GPTs, the AIs, to try to help do that. I mean, that is something I want to bring in, though. I want to ask you,
Mm-hmm.
with this tool, do you see in the future with all this AI talk, do you see that this evolving to where AI plays a part in part of this delivery experience? Have you all thought about that or played around with that a little bit?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We already have AI at work in our
Okay.
solution, but it goes and really ties into the different facets of how we want to impact this market when it comes to understanding vehicle technologies. Because
Mhm.
having the dealer experience is one level of it, because it's at the point of sale, right?
Yeah.
But there's also another layer to these technologies, is that um, we have millions of people that die every year behind car collisions. And
Mhm.
these technologies now are being seen not just by upgrading as a luxurious option. The government is and regulatory bodies are now involved with making sure that the public understands these technologies. So there's another layer to it, with us being able to keep up with the pace of technology, and AI allows us to do that. Because we look at it from a generational perspective, we're looking at, how does the teenagers learn? So getting
Mhm.
into virtual reality, getting into creating simulations. So before
Yeah.
they even get to the car, what does it feel like to drive with these technologies in your car? And the dealers are thinking just like this. You guys have virtual showrooms. How you guys are thinking of strategies on how to improve on that online or that virtual experience that you can create for that customer before they even get to you. So we are, as a company in the same space, we're doing the same thing. And AI has to be a part of that because it allows us to keep up with the pace of how everything is being developed so quickly. And so we plan to make an impact in many different areas because we want to train as many people as possible. And so we have to think of it at all of the points. So point of sale, point of use. We also work
Oh, I
with
like
rental
that.
car companies. We have people that don't buy these cars, but they use them. That the consultants that are constantly traveling, they're getting into a vehicle. That rental car company probably spent, I don't know, 2 minutes with you and handed you a computer.
You ain't lying. Keys. Or sometimes it's the keys are in it. That's what they tell you now.
Exactly.
Like the last time I rented a car, I don't even think I got to talk to anybody. They were
Yeah.
just like, the spots over there, your keys
Uh-huh.
will be in it. Met somebody out there, keys are in it. That's the only words I kept hearing. Keys are in it. Keys
That's
are
it.
in it.
And you're on your own. And you know what? That worked back in the day, but cars are not the same. So if you are a rental car company that has a fleet full of Teslas and all of these other software defined connected vehicles, they will have to have some type of educational resource that can be an extension to the experience that they're creating. So yes, to answer your question, AI is very much involved in what we do. And definitely we're getting into looking at how we create these experiences.
I love that so much because so here's what's cool. I There's a question that I've been wanting to ask you, but I didn't want to ask it on this show because I was like, man, this might be too like she might say, don't be mentioning that in public, but the rental car, like
Oh
I
yeah.
was just thinking about that. I was like, oh my gosh. I said, this would be amazing for some rental car companies
Oh
because
yeah.
I could see the QR code being on the key
Yep.
or something and it just say, want to know more about this car? Scan me.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
scan it. Because just yesterday, I was having a Zoom like this with somebody, and it's amazing because that person said that they rented a Tesla for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, if you've never driven a Tesla and you didn't research it beforehand, you don't just
Right.
up and decide I'm going to rent a Tesla and let's see what it's like. The dude was like, I didn't know how to get the car to move, and he said I had to. So each time he didn't know how to do something, he would
Yeah.
get on YouTube, and he said then
Yeah.
I had to get on YouTube, and I had to find out. He said he had to put his key on the middle, like of the keypad thing, and
Mm.
then he said when just little things like when he got out the car, he said I didn't know how to turn it off. How
Yep.
does the Tesla even turn off? So he had to go back on YouTube for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking about that as you were speaking. I was like, he needed you. Like that, whoever that
And that's what
rental,
we hear
yeah,
every
they,
time.
so that's so good to hear that you're already in that space because between Turo, the rental car companies, and dealerships for sure. Because I'll ask you this question. Let's pivot this to where a dealer's listening and let's say they don't want to move forward with like a features first and,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
Lisa's what you've built.
Mm-hmm.
What's your message to them then if they're going to do it some other fashion and they're not doing anything currently and
Right.
they're not ready to move forward with what you have, which would be wild. But if they're saying, hey, I'm going to do this my way, what would be your instructions to them?
Most dealers that I know have product specialists.
Okay.
I, I mean, I don't know a dealer. Now there could be a dealer, but most dealers I know have product specialists that
Mm-hmm.
go over that technology for that customer. Because we've heard plenty of stories where they help them sync their phone. So if you have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, they go through those features and teach you how to do that. So the dealer is aware of the need to educate the customer. So I would say that really making sure, if you're going to lean into your product specialist, make sure they are actual product specialists. So you need to make sure that your training is, up to date with your fleet, so that that product specialist can be as most valuable to that customer in that moment. Because I can't tell you how many stories I hear that the dealer personnel didn't even know about the technology in the car. And so that really sends a message to that customer about that dealer, and how much do you care about my purchase? To me, and I'm a customer, so, and I look at that. When I'm going to purchase a vehicle, I need it to be seamless. I don't want you to sell to me. I'm already going to come knowing what I want. But I need your team to know what I'm getting. So I would say just make sure that effort in your product specialist and that team that you have dedicated to making sure that customer understands what they're purchasing when it comes to those technologies that improve their driver safety. We're not just creating training, for just the fun of it. These technologies are actually saving lives. So that is usually aligned with a dealer's safety culture. So really seeing it as part of your culture and your safety message, and making sure that that's embedded with your product specialist team, that would be my advice, because essentially we are just an extension of that experience.
Yeah. And when you say product specialist, Lisa, are you talking about salespeople, or are you talking about like product specialists for real, like the ones after you purchase, they go over these things?
So the way that we have seen it in the dealers that we have been exposed to is that once that customer is in that showroom, that product specialist is the person that they're talking to before they even get to sales. It's the person that's making sure they know what that car is and what's in that car. And then that person, I believe, and this is the experience that I actually had with my own product specialist, after I purchased the vehicle and came to pick it up, that product specialist sat with me. So they were not part of the sales team. They were separate from the sales team. It was an extra effort for that consumer education. So if a dealer doesn't have that, they should have that, because that's very important when it comes to these technologies. Like, these things are advanced. They're collecting data. There's just all kinds of things that are happening now in vehicles, and dealers are being met with decisions, around these topics. Even privacy. This is a trending topic right now. Consumers are becoming more aware of data collection in vehicles. So what is your dealer like? How are you going to get ahead of that narrative to say, oh, but for our customers, we do this?
Yeah. This is how we educate you and get you
That's
prepared
right.
for that. Because
That's right.
I mean, you'd say this about this product specialist. The experience that you're talking about is way more rare from what I'm seeing out
Wow.
across the country. Because unless the OEMs are, I don't want to say mandating, but are strongly suggesting that there's one there, a lot of dealerships I see don't have that. Like the Highline clients. So I have a lot of Highline clients. They do have what you're talking about. Every single one, BMW, Mercedes, Audis, they all have, like, after the salesperson, some of them call them client advisors. After the advisor sells them, they've already teed it up. Like, they've really already introduced you to that product specialist once we see that it's getting to that point. But for the others, that what I'm seeing, especially non-Highline, some of the imports and domestics, I'm not seeing any kind of product specialist. Normally it's like the salesperson who is selling the car, and then afterwards doing as much as they can to kind of go over the car while the customer is waiting for their vehicle maybe to get cleaned up. They're talking about it. But then when they get back after all that time that's been spent, they're sitting there trying to go through this car with the customer. And to your point, if a dealer doesn't have that product specialist position, they either need to hire one or either with their sales team have a process that's innovative with something like this.
Correct.
So that way they can, again, make sure that their team and their customers are not tied up with time. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and the time that's needed to really make sure somebody grasps content is over. It's never in that one moment. So
You're
to know
right.
that the salesperson is responsible for that whole sales process, and then now try to shift gears in their mind to turn into the trainer, the customer
Yeah.
trainer, um, is probably not the most effective process. I would say that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that dealer would want to definitely have a solution that's a little bit more fluid with their processes that they have internally utilizing their people. And so that's where we step in. That's where our solution can be an extension of that dealer.
Yeah. And I think most of us would agree, regardless, to your point, even if every dealership in the world had a product specialist, right?
Mhm.
So maybe after this show, a bunch of dealers tell me, Duran, you're wrong. We all have product specialists. My feedback to that would still be, okay, do you remember what you and I talked about 3 months ago?
Mhm.
Do you remember my pitch that I gave you 2 years ago for my clients that are still rolling with me now? And
Mhm.
I'd imagine most of them would be like, absolutely not. And I would say, there you go.
Mhm.
Like, because we're in an emotional state
Yeah.
when you've made a happy purchase decision. Like, you're fired up. I'm excited. I got my car and you're trying to teach me this thing. Okay. I'm like, okay, yes, let me pay attention. Yes, yes. But then what
Exactly.
do we do after that? I think most people would say after they buy a car, one of the first things they do is they go eat for some reason. It's like, man, I'm hungry after that experience. I burned some calories and I had to, knuck if you buck with a couple people, but let's go grab something to eat. You grab something to eat, you get home, you chill. A week later comes by, and now you're on YouTube or you're on somewhere else
Exactly.
or reading a book because that was too much information. So I
Exactly.
think at the end of it, no matter what direction the dealer goes, think about the long-term game, not the
Mhm.
short term. Because yeah, we can teach anybody. We can teach somebody a new language to speak 3 sentences you know, today. Like we could teach them Spanish. I could teach you some lines, but if you don't keep practicing those lines, watch out in 3 months and see if you still know those lines of Spanish that you're trying to learn. You have to keep, you kind of have to use that and you have to revisit it. But if you don't have those tools, then you're there. So, man, this was so good. I do have a question that I've been wanting to ask because
Yes.
it's something that we share, right? But you are a woman, you are a leader, but also you happen to be one of color. So we
Mhm.
both are the
Mhm.
colored part. I'm just not a woman, but in our industry, what has that been like for you on that journey? Because you're this entrepreneur, you're the owner, but even since you've been in the game, because you've been doing this for quite some time, but talk to us a little bit about that journey and where it's at now, but then also what you're seeing in the future for women and especially women of color.
Yeah, no, that's a loaded question.
It sure is. Light it up.
And um hmm, there's one thing that my mom taught me when I was younger, and this I seen her model it. It wasn't something she said, but she modeled it. And it was just being unapologetically who she was.
Mhm.
And me seeing that, um, I take that with me every day as an entrepreneur, but especially one that is a woman in a male dominated industry. So
Yeah.
even beyond the dealer and automotive space, you can think about software as a service. So if you look at that industry, that market, there's not many women in that space. And
Right.
so, to be honest, I have been on a journey of learning um, the red tape that you can say that comes with being a woman entrepreneur that I just didn't know because at the time I wasn't a woman entrepreneur. And now that
Yeah.
I am, and I, talk with my peers and my girlfriends who are in my network, and I say, hey, are you experiencing this? Are you experiencing this? Um, it's really leaning into being that unapologetically who I am
Yeah.
and knowing and understanding my why um, to what I do really determines how I show up every day. And I have found that that speaks more than me coming in the room and saying, I am a woman. I am a woman of color. I own this business. It's me coming in and saying, I have a solution. You
Mm-hmm.
have a need. And let the previous things that I have been able to achieve speak for themselves.
Yeah.
And so women are doing that now. We're not asking anything. We are just being who we are. Even when I think about Mabel, she is a ferocious, courageous woman and
Mm-hmm.
never apologizes for who she is. Anytime you hear her name, there is nothing but honor and admiration that comes with it. So being a woman and having this knowledge that there were previous things that would stop us from doing what we want to do and achieve what we want to achieve and work where we want to work and go where we want to go, and to know that, oh, I get to come to the plate a little different.
Yeah.
I'm going to come with my interpretation of what I think this should look like. And so, to me, taking that stance and making sure that everything that I do achieve as an entrepreneur, a woman of color, in the spaces that are male dominated, that I go back and I get those younger women and
Yeah.
the younger girls that are coming up, and show them and model to them what it looks like to be unapologetically you, because you're already going to be successful. Anything you put your hands to, it's going to be blessed, because that's what's already been written. So it's understanding that knowledge and walking in that and that power. Has it been easy doing that? No. There are times where I have been met with, individuals that were taken back by my approach, to business and my knowledge and my confidence. And honestly, Duran, even being young or looking
Yeah.
young, has been a downfall in some situations. And so I've had to navigate those different experiences, but continue to show up the same way, so that it doesn't matter what room you're in, you're going to hear the same version of Lisa. Oh, I know Lisa. It's going to be the same and consistent.
Yeah.
And so for the future, I see women dominating because now we are just doing what we were already positioned to do. We have a lot to say. We have a lot of solutions to questions and things that have been long standing, needing to be fixed. That women come in and do that. We do that. And so I see us dominating in all 7 mountains of influence, and I'm excited to see it. And I am excited to be a part of it as well, because I plan to make a mark here, and not a small one, a pretty big one.
You already have, Lisa. You already have. Like, I get goosebumps hearing you say that, because I'm so glad that you said that the way that you said it, because somebody needed to hear it that way.
Yeah.
Like, somebody is going to hear this, and that's going to open them up, and it's going to inspire them to keep moving on the same way that it inspires me, because it is, you really do have to be unapologetically yourself, because if somebody's not, that's when it gets real bad.
That's right.
Because then it's like you're trying to fit in and be this person who's trying, and then if it still doesn't work because of unconscious biases or whatever, now you're really hitting a wall, because you're like, I even tried to do this and I was even doing this and I still didn't get what I wanted, when really you just needed to be that one true authentic voice that you are, and let the people come build that table, right? Build your own table. It's like, I never understood that until I got on the entrepreneurial side. I was like, I got it now. I got it. There's a table over there. They ain't letting me come over. Duran is not invited to that table. Duran is going to have to create a table and get with some people that see the vision and see the why, and they'll come over. Oh, let's sit down here. Listen. And then, what's even better is then when they have their table, you go sit at theirs. You know what I mean? That's the coolest thing. It's like, oh, Duran, come over here. And then now that first table that didn't want you, now all of a sudden they're coming back around. Hey, we got a spot. Come on over here. You can come sit. And then that's when you got to make that decision.
And here's the key to that, Duran. in that decision, because now we're talking as entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
It's the bigger picture.
Yeah.
It's you humbling yourself in that moment to know, I know what's really going on, but because I have a bigger picture in mind, I'm going to come sit at your table. I appreciate the
Yeah.
seat because I already knew I was supposed to be there. So
Yeah.
if I choose to go sit there, that's great. But I have had to have that knowing as an entrepreneur, to be honest, because you have to learn how to do business with people that don't like you.
Yeah.
That is par for the course. You don't get to say, I'm not good. I mean, obviously there are, if you're a vendor, you can pick and choose who you do business with. There are non-negotiables when it comes to doing business with people. That's on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the back end, whatever in-house things you have as a vendor when you're evaluating your customers and who you're doing business with. But there's also the understanding as a CEO, someone that's leading the company, that we're going somewhere further beyond that.
Yeah.
And so I have to remember that as I'm moving. And being humble and not being offended is very key in business. For my people in our community, I want us to build profitable, scalable businesses. That means you're going to be at the table with some enemies.
You sure are. Because they think you taking their plate when really there's enough for everybody to eat. Like, it's a buffet out here, but you're right. There's certain people that are like, there's already somebody here that's doing that. And that's kind of what I kept hearing when I got into this journey was, that person does that. He does that. She does that. And I'm like, and?
Exactly.
Okay. There's more than one McDonald's,
That's right.
Like, there's a Wendy's, there's options. And so that people struggle with that. But I really am thankful that you said that. And we might have to do a follow-up show where it's me, you, and Mabel. But I definitely got to get Mabel on here to talk, because now anybody that's especially in the cage community that's watching this, because this will go to all these stores. I'm sure everybody's like, Mabel, who is this Mabel? And so, all right, fans, I'm going to get Mabel on here, but just be ready. Be ready, because you got a little dose of Lisa and you get a little dose of Mabel. You're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And I'll say, here's what's going on for the leaders and most of the dealers that I work with. I would say a good portion of them have a grasp on their staffing and what it looks like, but there still are some, because the issue that I still have, and I don't mind saying publicly because I've told them this privately, is just the women in leadership part is the problem that I have. Like, there's one thing to have women at your organization at a dealership, but I've seen it, and I worked alongside in a store that had it in leadership positions, and I know what's capable when that happens. But just having it to say that, yes, we've got a certain percentage that are women, and yes, there's a certain percentage of color, that won't do it. It's when you have that full mix. And it's not done because, I got to find that person now because I got to do it. No, it's just opening up your eyes and ears. You don't have to go searching for anybody. That person has probably already walked through most people's doors. It's just that person might have walked in and looked around and walked out. And you got to run up to them and be like, hey, I know what it looked like, but it's not that. Come on. We're trying to grow and we're trying to change the game. So, woo! Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole nother conversation.
But I'm glad we went there for a little bit, because it needed to be, not that it needed to be said, but it was just something I always want to expand on when I can. Yeah. The last thing that I have before we wrap this up was we got some rapid fire questions. And I came up with a few. Oh yeah. So no thinking aloud. You got to just pop off. These should be fun, but these are the IG, the intelligent gauntlet questions that we have. Okay. So number one, these are going to be random, is one feature on a car you think everyone should learn how to use?
I'm thinking of two, but I would say lane keep assist.
Yes, I love that. All right. AI, artificial intelligence, or emotional intelligence, what's more important in customer education?
Emotional intelligence.
All day. If you could partner with any automaker, who would it be?
Oh, that's hard. You know what? That's not hard. Toyota.
All right. Hey, They've been
Yes,
running it
Toyota
too.
has supported this company in many ways, and so yes.
I think it was the RAV4 or the Highlander. One of those last year I read was the number one and outsold the F-150.
Oh,
It was the
really?
number one selling car for Toyota. That's huge for them. So I'm sure
Yeah,
they'd
that
like to
is.
hear that. All right. Four, favorite car you've ever owned.
Favorite car I've ever owned. I would have to say, oh boy, I would have to say my Kia Optima Hybrid. I
All
love
right.
that car.
What's so funny is so when I started my company, the first car I had was a Sonata. It was a
Oh,
Sonata
really?
hybrid. Yeah, so which is like the Optima version, but it's the
Yes.
Sonata hybrid. It was a 2012. I put over 239,000 miles on that car,
Whoa.
driving all over this country to start. And everybody see me pull up in my little red 2012 Sonata laughing at me because I'm 6'5", but hey, it got the
Listen,
job
you
done.
couldn't tell me anything in my Kia Optima Hybrid, baby. That was my first, like, I'm doing something good for the environment. You can't tell me
Yeah.
anything.
All right. One piece of advice for dealerships looking to improve their customer experience.
Come and talk with us at Features First Auto.
There we go. And last, what's one misconception people have about post-sale customer education?
That it doesn't matter and it doesn't tie to the bottom
Ooh.
line of their revenue, because it does.
All right. That's good. Well, I think I love how you answer that because that's what most people say. It's like, it ain't that deep. I sold the car. They're happy. It's like, no, it's what they're not saying is what's just as
Correct.
important as what they are saying, right? It's if we
Correct.
all knew what customers are not saying, that's the study that we got to pay attention to. So, Lisa, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think the main question that I have, and I think many might have right now, is how do they get in contact with you?
Yes, yes. So I am very available for our company. We have a small team. And so
Mhm.
you can go on LinkedIn, and my
Okay.
calendar link is literally there. You can email us at info@featuresfirstauto.com. You can reach us on all of our social channels. You literally can get to me on LinkedIn, though. So if you want to know more about our initiatives and what we're doing, and then also talk about what's going on at your dealer, and how do you bring this experience there, you have direct access to me.
Boom. Oh, there you have it. And I'll make sure to include that for everything in the descriptions for everybody. But Lisa, I cannot thank you enough. I know the community thanks you. And I'm excited to see where this is heading because I know there's some big things on the horizon for you. So you're a light. Thank you for sharing it with us today and your wisdom. And until next time we have you back, be well. And if there's anything I can do for you, just let me know.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Thank you, Lisa. Gratitude. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. It's always great, and I thank you for it. So, if you could do me a big favor, fam, if you want more videos like this, please like, subscribe, comment, share this out. And hey, if you want to see something different or if you have some feedback for me, send me a message. Love to hear back from you. But until then, thank you all. Keep winning. Be well.